if you make us serious, they know that everything is, most of the talks are based in, or pretty much all the talks are in English. So Robert Schmitz here today is from the office White Arkitekter. And I think for me, White Arkitekter goes back to a time when I was lecturing 3 years in Chalmers University, and there was colorful new buildings coming up, and you know, I was quite fascinated by the office because it had a very diverse portfolio of work, and so I think it's not just one line. You have different types of offices, as you just explained already before. And what happened was recently, I think last year, kind of hit the stage with this new culture center called the Sarah Kulturhus, which is in a small town which is called Skellefteå, I think. Maybe it's and I think what's basically people, I think you have been exhibiting in many places. You've received already many awards, although it's really still very fresh and young. And I think there's a lot of focus on now this project because it's it's pretty much the highest building construction from timber. It's also, I think, opens up a lot of innovative ways of how to build with timber. Because one example, for example, is the staircase in the tower, which connects the hotel rooms, and it's made fully out of timber, which is at the moment impossible to realize in Germany. So I think it's a really fascinating incentive for a new development, also kind of a new way of, changing maybe building regulations and so forth. I think your project will be one of the beacons in terms of examples for this. And I think it's also fascinating in terms of all the different types of way of construction with timber that you have realized in this project. So we're very fascinated by it. I mean, obviously timber is, everybody's talking about timber these days, but I think the way that you have realized timber is very unique. And so we're very keen to hear about it. I hear you are partner at White Arkitekter, and you have realized this project with your kind of project partner, and basically realized it in 2021. It was completed with 30,000 square meters. So a lot of timber that was used for this. And you have a background also from Chalmers University. You studied there, also at Newcastle University, but mainly it's Chalmers University in Gothenburg. And you joined White Arkitekter since 2006, which is unbelievable looking at how young you still are. So there's a lot of experience here. And I'm very fascinated to see this project now. I would like to invite you to give your talk. Thank you very much for coming.
Thank you for having me. We got in contact when we have this exhibition, Heart of Wood, in Berlin, about this project at the AEDES Architecture Forum as a single project exhibition. And the exhibition was focusing more, or is focusing more on how the construction is a very strong linked to the architecture, and following that process. Since then the exhibition has hit the road, and now we have just opened it up in Prague last week. So it's going to be exhibit there for a couple of months until I think the end of March or something. So there is a lot of interest in how to build a B in timber, and of course, as you said, it has become a beacon for sustainable building construction and for timber, of course, and it's becoming a backdrop when discussing timber and the possibilities that you can do with it. Germany, as many other countries, almost any other country, having problems with the legislations of building in timber. And we're fortunate in Sweden that our regulations is not based on material, it's based on function. So as long as we can prove that we can build this and people can get out safely from the building in case of fire, we're allowed to do that. It's more of so, and I think that's that's the main reason why this is possible. And but this being an example of you can really achieve a building like this. Sets the discussion in a new light, I would say. It's easier to talk about building in timber when you have a project that has already been built, I would say. And you can see my screen?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
You see the Sarah Culture Center, and yeah. So this project, of course, is out for except for being in timber, this is also a culture center and hotel in Skellefteå, as you told me before, in the northern parts, in really rural part of Sweden. And this is a part or a key for the municipality, which is the client of this project and the developer, to make Skellefteå a more attractive city and to attract people staying there and moving in there. And so that by doing this, building this culture center, they want the city to grow from 70,000 people up to 100,000 people over the next 10 years. So for them, they're investing in this building for the future, to meet the future demands, and and this was something that they started. This journey for them started long before we came in the picture. With stakeholder or involvement dialogue together with the municipality, the people in Skellefteå, asking them what they wanted what they needed in the city to make the city more attractive. So after they've been decided that they wanted to have this culture center right in the center of the city, they launched an open competition, and that's where we got in 2016. But let's see if I can. Oh, here I can do it like this. There. But first, a little bit about White Architects. Yeah, as my name is Robert Schmitz, and I've been working for 15 years at White. Since before that, I worked in smaller offices, and I also worked at the Royal Palace in Stockholm as an architect for the object, I would say. So that's my background. And I also, now I'm working with heaps of different projects, and but mostly I tend to work with large scale projects, complex projects. At the moment, I'm working on a high rise of 32 stories, sadly not in timber, but still it's going to be one of Stockholm's biggest public transportation nodes, and the tower would be straight on top of that. That's for another lecture, I guess. But I've been working with this Sarah Culture Center since the competition and all the way into the opening this fall. But White is Scandinavia's leading architectural practice and is one of the largest in Europe. And we have projects across Europe, America, and Africa. We also have 14 different studios. Most of them are located in Sweden, of course, but we also have studios in Oslo and London, and from last year in Stuttgart, where we have an offspring. And the offspring is from the Stockholm office, so we are also supporting and quite involved in the Stuttgart office, I would say. And there we are about 7 people working at the office in Stuttgart, but in Stockholm we are about 230 people working, so we have quite of a muscles if we to help the Stuttgart office, I would say. And of course, White, we have always strived to work with architecture and sustainability in integrated design. We think that it's a holistic approach that is the best way of dealing with these matters. And we also like to keep numbers on our impact of environmental things. So here you can see that we're trying to keep that, not just saying stuff, but also doing the same as we say, if you understand what I mean. Yeah, and we are a self-employee company. So every employer can buy stocks and shares in the company, so that we get the revenue back onto the people that actually work in the office. And then we also have a partner system, and I'm a partner, but we're lots of partners working together as a collective, basically. So yeah, so we work interdisciplinary throughout the entire design process with architects, environmental specialists, interior designers, industrial designers. We have social anthropologists. We work a lot with digital design throughout the entire, all of our projects, basically. Landscape, urban planners, and project manager. And we work a lot with cost controls, really in the early stage of each project, so that we actually can make them feasible for our clients. And our vision is by 2030, all our architecture will be climate neutral through our design, basically. And this is quite bold vision to say, but since we said it, we have really starting this journey to transform into a more carbon dioxide neutral construction. And that is our challenge. And I always start with this because the construction and real estate takes about 21% of the carbon emissions, and it's about 10 times more than in Sweden that we are producing than the planet can hold. So it's our responsibility as architects to actually investigate and suggest materials that has as low impact of the environment as possible. And timber is one of that, being the only renewable material that we have today to work with in construction. Being owned by ourselves means that we can do whatever we want with a profit if we have one. And we basically we have a white research lab that we can channel our profit back into research. So that helps the benefits our project, basically. And this is mostly project-based research. We have lots of different levels of researchers, but it should be hands-on, so everyone can be participating in this. And it just doesn't have to be topic-based. It can also be quite work within a project. But then we have a network that distributing all this knowledge back to the rest of the company, so that they can take they can make them into their practice as well. And one of these research labs are timber, and because this will help us in the transition into carbon neutral construction. So but with the Sericulture Center, we really wanted to investigate the possibility to build a complex and large scale building like this in timber. So we used the VRL, the research lab, to get funding to actually participate in this competition to do so. So that's one thing that we do with this money, for example. So it's basically very hands-on. And then I'm going to show you some images for what we're doing in Germany and Stuttgart, from the Stuttgart office. So this is the Reutlingen, and this is an old factory in Heinzelmann. Maybe you know it more than I do, but this is partly a cultural heritage situation that we have been working with and transforming our building into new possibilities, and also adding structure into this context which has been very successful. It was a competition we won, and that we're working on right now. And it's going to be open in next year, 2023, if everything goes as we hope, for example. Another project that we've been working on and there was a competition that we were doing from the Gothenburg office before we started the Stuttgart. And it's a campus building in Feuerbach, which connecting the different parts of the campus into this community building, basically. And we've got quite long in this process, so this will also stand open quite soon, I think. And it also takes part in the surrounding city. And here is another, and these are all, of course, competition wins. And mostly we have added things in timber, and we have used Sarah Culture Center as a reference in all these projects. So this is not only a beacon for sustainable construction, but also a beacon for white and for timber solutions. So we learn a lot from this project, and we really try to take advantage and use our skills to develop new methodology in not just culture centers, but also as this is residential, for example, for elderly. At the Stockholm office, I'm head of competitions. So I decide which competition we should go on, and I try to help with teams and everything. But I also compete a lot myself. And right now we are investigating timber in almost all of our competitions. And this is a competition in Germany, in Munich. It's the iCampus, where we working with with beams that could have in CLT but with long spans, for example, to get a very flexibility in the building. Sorry we didn't win this, but we won another competition in Riga, Latvia. It's called the Kimmel Quarter, and this is also an old beer brewery factory that is going to be converted into a culture center of some sort, and combined with a new establishment of offices. It's about 50,000 square meters of timber offices in 6 stories. And here we are actually changing or testing the fire regulations in the country to see if we can build this tall and so many stories. And then we have the Sarah Culture Center as a proof that you can do it. That is not just theory. So it opens quite a lot of new doors when working with timber and new materials. Since the modern timber industry, I mean, it's fairly young. It's 25 years old or something. So it's still rapidly changing and developing. So I would say that almost any major timber project is a pilot project, that we have to learn new ways how to handle it and how to utilize the timber for its own for the purpose. And here you can see the interface between the old the brewery and the new dwellings from behind. And we wanted to have this quite intimate scale within the block, so that people. This is being used as a culture center, a venue today, and we didn't want that to change. More of the office development could enhance the cultures part and add qualities into that. Another project. Now we're slightly moving back to Sweden. So this is in Gothenburg. That's where Chalmers is situated, the university. And this is a smaller project, but still very important, because this is the first office building made in totally of timber in Sweden, and it's called Nudi. And it's a flagship for that client, but also for the timber industry, showing up what we were able to do and how far we have gone with the timber technology in Sweden. And here we worked a lot with the exposed timber throughout the entire project, And I guess at the moment, this is the way that the fascination of timber is that you can really use it as a surface and give it characters in the building. Should I continue before I come to the actual topic today, or you want to have any questions? Or
I think it's fine if you want to continue. And
yeah.
if somebody has questions, we'll have it in the chat.
Okay,
right, so
that's good.
You can ask questions.
And you understand my English and everything.
Better than
it's okay.
most of us.
So yeah, moving up north in Sweden. This is before Sara Culture Center. This is the tallest structure in Sweden made of timber, and it's a church. It's built in 1912. It's 34 meters high. And so it's been a long time that also in Sweden that you were not allowed to build more than 2 stories of timber. But this law changed in '94, and it's to a more performance-based legislation, saying that it's more important that the people inside of the building can run out and safely instead of the material being used in it. But this is also an example when building in timber that all these and the entire structure is made of logs and parts that's been assembled on site, and so it also made to be reassembled. This building is at the moment has been moved 2 kilometers away, since they are moving the entire city of Kiruna because of the mining that's going on there. So that's quite of an impressive situation, or unique situation, that you're moving a town. And since this building was made out of timber, they were able to take it down in parts and build it up again. And there was the other buildings that were made in concrete that they couldn't do that. There was no economy in reassemble it, so they had to tear that down. So this is an improvement that it's a circular, not just because it's renewable, but it also the way that we can utilize the timber in the structures makes it circular, and it has a life afterward. If they didn't want it, this is a beautiful building, so people wanted to be it, but it could also be assembled and taken apart and used as other buildings as well. So we have used this as an inspiration in our project. So in order to get this legislation, and of course Sweden has a strong timber industry and history, so that they would say that this is the timber industry together with the municipality is the driving force towards sustainable construction and towards having timber buildings. So and that was the case in Skellefteå as well. So that they have made a timber strategy document saying that all public investments should at least learn or investigate in seeing if it is possible to use timber in this project, and then they have to explain why it's not. So there is a strong force within the community to work in timber, but for the public competition, this was not there was nothing. It was not mandatory. They were just saying that they were part of this movement and the Timber City organization. So that we didn't have. So that was something that we wanted to address from White. They were more focusing on the content of the program of the building and how to revitalizing the city center. But still, I think it's a very important thing to say that the public sector in Sweden has been the driving force, and now the private sector is tagging along and seeing that the upside of this, both in their trademarks, but as as the taxonomy goes on into green energy, and they also need to do something with their with their building constructions, let's say. So it's been rapidly changing the mindset of everyone in the society, basically. Skellefteå, as I said, has a long tradition in timber and a strong timber industry. It's because of it's surrounded by forests. It's lying in the rural parts of Sweden, close to the Baltic Sea, just underneath the polar circle. So it's have long summers, but they have very dark winters as well. So it's traditionally coming from a harsh climate. And they have been used timber since forever, basically. So they launched this competition in 2015 as an open international competition. So there was about 55 proposals from 11 different countries, which we were one of them, of course, and we gladly we won. And the city has a strong timber heritage as well, but this city is basically the only city in the North Sweden which hasn't been burnt down during the 19th century. Instead, they have demolished all these buildings in the 1950s and replaced them with concrete buildings, as they did back then. And so the city has in some way lost its soul. And that was something that we wanted to give back to the city, to say that, because they are proud of their timber industry and the forestry, the sustainable forestry around it. And they also have at the university, they have courses in timber here in Skellefteå as well, as part of a bigger university in Luleå. So that was important, that the community has a connection to timber and is proud of it, but they don't have it in the city center. This is the site of the project. As you can see, it's it's not a big city, but this is the most central plot in the entire city, just between the main square and the future train station. So this will be the entrance to the city, basically. And the plan for the master plan for the city says that this was going to be a significant building or a public use of building, but they never managed to decide what to do with it. So this has been working as a parking lot ever since the modern city was made or planned until today, when they actually decided of the culture center. And the program is 17,000 square meters of culture center, and 13,000 square meters of a hotel and conference. So it's the public and the private working together to benefit from each other and create a culture hub in the city center, basically. And the culture center consists of 4 today working culture institutions. It's a public library, the city library, a museum, an art gallery, with both is public, and then there is the theater, a regional theater, which is quite famous in Sweden. It also travels all the way in the region around to smaller cities as well. But, so that they have their own home stage, which they didn't have before. And our concept when working with the project was that we wanted the building to take part in the city and not create any backsides. We wanted the interface to be easy, and you could look into the different operations that were inside. So we placed all the big stages and scene in the center, side by side, allowing all the different operations to work with the city. So they allowed for entrances in all directions and creating street life on the streets. We didn't want to have any backsides in this building. I mean, the other stages are great venues, but they're very, when you're there, you're only looking at the stage. So this should be a building that runs or operates through the entire day, from morning until evening. We're working with adjusting the scale and heights to its contact and its surrounding street levels. With these boxes that's both they're exposing the contents, but it also works up to the high rise where the hotel is. And this creates different and new public spaces also vertically. So you have a new perspective overlooking Skellefteå, and it also gives back spaces to the people that live in Skellefteå. So they was very strong that everyone could get up there, even though the people that don't pay for a show or have to have a dinner. Yeah, so then we have created a new a landmark in Skellefteå, a sustainable landmark. And this new scale, the building is twice as tall as the second tallest structure in Skellefteå. And so you could say that's quite a bold move. But since we have exposed the timber and we use the timber as an expression, people can really relate to it, as I mentioned before. And there hasn't been any complaints at all, basically, since the timber give this warmth and character to the building. And this is something that the people in Skellefteå is proud of, I would say. And it becomes, as one critic said, it was a friendly giant in the Skellefteå. And the landmark also, because of the glazing, and which also exposed the timber within, it really participates to its surrounding and gives life to the streets of Skellefteå, even especially during the winter season or the night, in the night. And here we wanted to, and you can see a plan of the building, and this is the ground floor, and you have the entrance facing the main square, and inside, underneath the high rise, you come into the main entrance, which we place the culture staircase, as we call it. It's an oversized staircase connecting to all the different operations within the building, and this becomes a melting pot or a meeting place for all the people. And you can get in here without being able to pay, or don't have to pay for anything. So this could be this. Our ambition was that this was supposed to be the new meeting place in Skellefteå. And here we put the elevators for the hotel, so that the hotel guests should interact with the people, normal people in Skellefteå. And we also had the library as the anchor on the street level, because people will use this during the entire day. And this is also the one that is open the longest hour. So this basically it's shared between the hotel lobby and the library, so that the people can really mix and interact, and hope that this becomes a platform for discussions and of culture in the city. And here you can see the culture staircase, as we call it. And you can see these massive columns that's supporting the high rise in solid timber. And they are about 600 times 800 millimeters thick. So that's something that we really wanted to express in the building, and use the timber, the construction timber, as architecture. And also the trusses holding the ceiling is also made from timber. But here we wanted to say or give the space character. We used steel as for the diagonals, saying that the steel is better to take tension, and the timber has a better way of taking compression. Otherwise, it would be so thick that you couldn't even. There would only be like beams. So this is a way to play with material optimization, but in the same time having it as ornamentation, basically. So from here, it leads to all the different operations in the building. And this is when you come up from the staircase up to the main foyer that basically surrounds all the stages at the upper level. It's a split level basically, so we have two entrances, one the main entrance and then the theater entrance on the other side facing the train station. And this is a space that it's very large because it's going to hold banquets for 1,200 people. So, but what happens when it's not being used as this? So we wanted to make the space so that people that are there during the daytime, they also wanted to use this space. So we didn't have any dedication to the space, really. We wanted to have a flexible building that's that it can be you can use whatever you want to. So that it was very important to have nice spaces with daylight and that you can feel that you belong there and you are allowed to be here. And for example, this is a dance group that is practicing in this space, for example. That is a nice way of adapting into the building. And yes, the plan shows the foyer runs all the way across the building, holding this 5 stages side by side, so that they can work independently or together. You can easily move, so you can what do you call it? You can move the theater, so you can have different venues over the one day. For example, in the morning you can have a speech, and in the afternoons you can have a dance performance, and then you can have the theater during night. And then behind that we have all the back of house functions with the joinery and forgeries and sewing for masks and for clothing, for example, and where the changing rooms are for the actors. So everything is integrated into each other within the building. So we've been working with connecting these 2 floors, working with the library and the foyer as the lungs of the building, so that they can be used in so many different ways, in different configurations. And hopefully the different operations in the building can work together in these spaces as well. So the staircases, which you have a circulation, a flow inside the building, so that you can choose your own path to whatever you want to go to. And this is one example for that. We've been working a lot with digital design and have working with BIM in this project from the very start of the competition, basically. But also we have been working, this has been a very good instrument to allow us to show that the construction in this case is very important, because it will be the architecture. So it explains and visualized to all the stakeholders in the project, because we've been working almost 100 persons in this project at the most, so that they also understand what effects choices makes, certain choices. So that was the rendering, and this is the finished result, and it's quite similar at least. So we have used images to ensure that we keep our vision. The section, so you can see the stages running alongside the entire building, and then you have the high rise with the hotel that ends up with the staircase and in the main lobby. And it's 6 stages performing arts totally. And the main stage holds up to, it has 1,200 seats, but with a retractable seat, we can go up to 1,500. And this is a building from the stage looking into the saloon. And it's been since the opening in I think it is September. We had it's been having shows until quite recently when the restrictions we had restrictions again because of COVID. So they've been sold out almost every night. So there has been a quite need for this for performances and for community in Skellefteå as well. And this theater is also made then, and the walls and the roof, the trusses holding the roof, everything is in CLT and glulam pillars, and also the balconies are made from CLT slabs. And then we have worked a lot with the acoustic panels that we've been adjusting so that they can have the right performance. And in the end, they were easiest to make in solid timber as well. So from having boards with insulation or plastic insulations behind to fulfill some requirements, it became easier just to have a chunk of timber, having the same salvation or solution. So it's thinking of or rethinking construction and rethinking the way to use stuff, how to build stuff. Throughout the entire design process, the crew that we're working on this simplifying. And I mean, when we work with timber, we don't need any other material. Since I mean, it's in a way it's taking back an old technology, but in a new form. Let's go to the hotel. I'm sure I'm giving you a guided tour here across the building, and you just let me know if I'm getting too slow. So the high rise, or it's not a high rise, but it's 20 stories, and it consists of 200 hotel rooms. It has a conference center, a gym, a rooftop spa with an outdoor infinity pool. It's a very small one, but it's still. And it has 3 themed restaurants, one on the ground level, one on level 4 with a terrace, and then one on top, overlooking the Skellefteå skyline. And these hotel rooms are made as 3D volumes in the pre-manufactured and in the factory just outside of Skellefteå, 40 kilometers away, and delivered on site and then assembled and stacked on top of each other for 13 stories between 2 cores of CLT, stabilizing these. But the entire building helps out stabilizing and take down shear forces from the high rise. So the construction is very integrated into the design. All our design decisions were made so that we could allow the high rise to stand, basically. And that was also in a way was good for us, because then we couldn't change it to another material, because then we have to rethink the entire construction. So this was something that we come up with in the competition as a concept for the building. And this way we also don't need any diagonals in the facade, which is very unconventional, working with timber, for example, for stabilization. So that was something that we really stressed. We couldn't stress enough that our goal was not to have any diagonals in timber or in steel, for example, in the facade. So the vision was this, that you could lie on your bed and you had a fully glazed wall towards overlooking Skellefteå, and then you could see the exposed CLT walls and ceiling, and in this case even the floor. And this is the result. But this is a picture that I took, so it's not the best, but but still you have the CLT wall that you see. This is the supporting wall for this 3D module, and also the ceiling. And because this is self-bearing it allows to have a single sheet glass as the fourth facade facing Skellefteå. And then on top we have a restaurant and the spa. And the spa was the latest addition to the program. So it also made the building grew 1 story from 19 to 20 stories. But it was really a challenge to put a spa with lots of water into a timber building. It's not recommended for everyone. So all these, I mean, this building is really tailored to fit its purpose, and it has so many different typologies of solutions. So it really becomes a library of standardized timber solutions, but and details that can be used in not only in this project, but in many other projects as well, more residential or offices. So this has been really a test bed for us in our search to how to manage in a feasible way working with detailing in a timber building. And you can see that we have some concrete in this building as well, especially in the foundation and the basement, which we have. But from up there, all the vertical construction is timber with glulam and beams, and then we have CLT walls and slabs. And then we have these prefabricated 3D CLT modules, so that they are stacked 13 stories. And I think that's the world record for today by twice. I think it's the one that there is existing today is like 6 stories. So it's this has been an innovative way of working with the material basically. And then on the 2 top level and on the roof, we needed to add weight, so to prevent the accelerations of the movement in the building, and prevent people to get seasick basically. So it hasn't anything to do with the construction. It's more to get weight into the building, so that you will slow that down. And that's because of some regulations and performance that or how people feel when they're up there. And I mean, in the next project, we will probably use a damper instead of the concrete, for example. So there is there's solutions for that as well, but we didn't make it that far in this project, but still. And then we have basically. So we're starting with a timber structure that we wanted to expose as much as possible. And so we created basically 2 building envelopes systems in the building. For the culture center part, which is the base or the rise in the building, we have timber walls cladded with timber boards basically, and glulam louvers. And then we have it's a triple glazed system with a click-on system that we can have the louvers of the glulam exteriorly run through, so you don't see the mullions. And as you can see here, for example, on the right side, that's the wall. So you have a CLT board, and then you have number of insulation, and then you come to the timber cladding outside of that. And then on the high rise, we have a double skin facade with a specialized air shafts profile. So it allows for in the winter, for example, to you have a diagonal chimney effect in these pockets, so that we can warm air out, but in the winter we can use it as a warm buffer. So it helps with the energy system in the building, and this also protects the solar shading system that we have, the curtains. And these are the hotel modules. This is the first one, I think. It was made in the factory outside of Skellefteå. So the manufacturer of the timber manufacturer delivered the slabs here. So it was assembled from another company that then gave it to the contractor that that were basically moving them up and stack them between those cores. So it was a really collaboration between the architects that we were designing them, and the construction guys were. So there were the 4 different companies working with these and we all had the under one we all wanted the same thing, so we had to work together, otherwise this wouldn't have been possible. So when we started this project, we were general consults, right? So we made all the engineer firms they have to be skilled in working in Revit, and then we've been working in Revit ever since. But then as the technical design moved further and we became more detailed, we also could use Tekla, for example. But you could import that into the Revit file, for example. So we have about, in this model, it's not a digital twin, but it's close to. It has about 300,000 components, and we have working every week with the coordination to see that it doesn't collide and collisions, and so that everything has been in order, because the entire building is 99% prefab made of off-site construction, for example. Yeah, so it's in 298,200 objects in the Revit model. And building in timber, one of the benefits of that, and one of the benefits of doing the pre-manufactured hotel model, is that we could save a lot of time during construction. And we saved about, the contractor says that if we compared it to if we were to do this in concrete, for example, we saved about a year of construction time. And so that's almost half the construction time with timber. And in total, it was 124 weeks. So getting the investment returned, timber is a really good material to work with. And so we had to divide this building into actually 13 different zones, so that we didn't build with a weather protection. So we built it in sections instead. So we built one section, so we have a finished roof. Then we build the next section, so that we can, in that way, we could plan ahead with all the other construction parts, so that we were always ready when the next sections was going to be ready. And the lightness of the timber made the construction really fast as well. We could have slabs that were the tallest slab they came in one single piece was 25 or 27 meters tall and 3 meters wide. So it's, yeah, it was really wind sensitive, this construction site, I would say. But this allowed for fewer lifts and fewer movements in the crane, and fewer traders that was coming with the material, for example. So it's it went really smooth, and this is the first project that I've been working on with no complaints from neighbors during construction, because it's silent. You don't have any. You only have the drilling. You hear the drilling, getting the plates together, basically. The digital design was used in many purposes and many ways, of course, and this are a few of them. Of course, we did the design and the technical design in the Revit. We used it as making sustainability reports and calculations and simulations, so that we can enhance the building performance to that. We worked a lot with AR and VR for stakeholder participations, for example, visualizations, so that everyone could, understand what was to come. Reviewing collisions was a major function in this building, and we used a computer mode engine, I would say, for computer games. So people were going in like you were playing a computer game, so that you can really see that what was going on, and then you saw all the collisions, and you could address them too. So it was a really intricate system that we worked on, that we and the coordinations in the project basically. We had it as a dialogue, and we took quantity takes off also for databases. And we also have used it as on-site, so that you could compare the digital model to reality, and you could really see if it fits or not to insurance. Yeah, this is just a view from the mayor of Skellefteå, or the municipality, and so that he also can be. This is with VR, so he went to running around in the building and experience how this is the main stage was going to be in real life before it was done. So it was a really good selling arguments to the people that invested in this project to tag everyone on board in the team. But so the building is rated BRO in the Swedish system, basically saying that the high rise has you have to have 60 minutes before so that everyone can get out safely from the building. And then the lower parts, you have 60 or 30 minutes, depending, because there's so many people that can be in this building. So that it's a different system that we have to think of. But it's also not just the construction, that we have added extra mass so that the shoring effect could be using shoring as an insurance for timber, but also we have a redundant sprinkler system with our own basin of water basin, and that's has a motor, an engine that is run by electricity and batteries from the Northvolt battery company that has been established in Skellefteå instead of diesel engines, for example. Yeah, so the building has been, I would say that we have been using a lot of different, not just timber as the sustainable material, but we were working a lot with other with the energy distribution, for example, or the system, and the entire building runs on 100% sustainable energy. But it also, through a smart grid or an AI pilot, it's connected to the entire city grid, so it can actually speak to other buildings, so and distribute the heating or cooling or energy to the buildings that need the energy the most, so that's to prevent peaks. And in the peaks for energy, that when you have to use like coal or gas, for example. So this helps it to even out the energy systems in the entire city. So it can run on renewable energy all the time. There is other that can speak better than me on this, but I hope you understand what I mean, in English at least. Yeah, so this is we say it's a carbon neutral building, and basically it's to become carbon neutral. You have to add all the energy and the construction and material, the embodied carbon dioxide, and then you have to take all the renewable energy and the sequestration in the timber, and the renewable energy off-site and on-site with PVs, for example, and you have to measure them to see if it adds up to the footprint that you have made. And our calculations of a life cycle analysis over 50 years time shows that this building, with a balancing of the carbon sequestration, for basically, we have twice as much. We bind twice as much carbon dioxide than we emit through transportation and construction process, for example. So this becomes a carbon negative building, but a climate positive building, basically, which is something that that was our intention, but we didn't have the instrument to calculate. But now we have, in a research program, been able to do that. So it's also is a really in front of how to measure the climate impact of a building, which is very important. Yeah, and then we have all the bragging about different prizes and awards and acknowledgements around the world this building has, but we can move on further and say by 2030, all our architecture is carbon neutral through design excellence. And thank you for having me.
Thank you very much.
Yeah.
Robert, it's
Wow.
fantastic lecture to see, like, I mean, this building that you built, and it's, as you said, like a showcase or like a book for, you know, constructing timber buildings. And I think there's a lot to learn from. And yeah, it's really fascinating also to see, of course, all the other projects you've done, but this one especially because, I mean, it kind of raises the bar to what is possible, but also I'm imagining it must raise a lot of questions also, like, you know, like, I'm thinking like that you went so far, so high, and you know, you're adding a lot of weight, for example, onto the structure, and then you even put more weight on top to make it more stable, and, you know, so I mean, my question is like, you know, is this something, for example, that is unique to that building that, you know, how will it change? Will it actually cause shrinkage, for example, because an organic material, you know, so having that much weight?
Yeah.
Have you been, or your team, design team has been looking at, you know, calculating this type of performance, which has never done before somewhere else. So how do you deal with these things that have not been realized somewhere else, and you know, make this so unique?
First of all, there was an innovation that the structural engineer had to invent a program to calculate the structure of the timber, because there was they didn't have that kind of instrument, for example. So that was one part that they needed to do. I didn't do it, but then there is, if you go to detail, how you assembled all the different parts. A lot of these are you can take it down and you can do it in a smaller building, and that has been done before. So then we could take the experience from that and we put it into a larger scale, if you understand what I mean.
Yeah.
So in many parts in the building, we just took technology that has been proven, but we added a few extra floors.
That's why I wonder, like, you kind of come across that kind of limit of upscaling, you know, that kind of borderline. Let's say you would build another like 3 times as high, it would have a huge effect.
Yeah, the good thing with timber is that it's really calculating. You can measure it and you know its performance.
Mm-hmm.
So it's easy to calculate. I mean, it's not, but you can calculate the shrinkage of the building. I mean, it's you know the tolerances. And that was something that we experienced through the design process, that if you use timber on timber, it's much better to use that instead of timber on concrete, for example, because they will behave and age differently, and they have different tolerances. If you understand, yeah. And CLT, they have a really I mean, the shrinkage, yes, there will be some shrinkage, but not. But we have of course we have secured that shrinkage in the construction. So and since everything is by, I mean, the tallest slab was 27 meters, but most of the slabs aren't that. So the smaller components are built together, which makes it the shrinkage not that. I mean, it's not that crucial.
Right. Shafts fire protection. I mean, what are the other things that makes it? I mean, I can what I said before at the beginning, like
Yeah.
what amazed me was that you made entire fire escapes there from timbers. Something
Yeah,
that we
we
wish to
saved
do.
so much plaster in this building.
Okay. Yeah.
We didn't need to cover. No, I mean also there. Timber, you can calculate the burning pace of timber very well. And then you will have a shoring system that will protect the timber and also burn slower. For steel, for example, it's much harder to understand when it will break because you can't see it, and mostly it's hidden away. So this is not hidden, and it's solid. So what we did, it's basically we added 2 centimeters on each side of the construction, so that it can provide a fire, for example. But then also the entire building is sprinkled except for the shafts.
Yeah, I think that you what you said is that you have a different approach in Sweden, that you're performance based
Yeah.
in terms of regulations and especially
Yeah.
fire
But
protection.
still we have to prove that we have to test.
Yeah, yeah.
And those tests has been done before, so we can use already done tests to prove our building could resist fire for a certain amount of minutes, for example.
Right.
And then we have used it's fire retardant painted.
Right.
All the surfaces interiorly.
Okay. Mm-hmm.
And it basically because of so in case of fire, people won't get flames on them. So it's
right.
not
spreading flames and stuff.
Exactly.
Yeah, I mean in Germany you have regulations don't allow you to build party walls or shaft walls or there's from combustible materials. So so I think that we're slowly moving towards looking at timber, especially timber construction, more as a performance-based construction, but it's still very, very far away from what you have realized. So I think it's something that we will be looking at in 10 years' time or 15 years' time, and maybe some of that will be realized. But I think that's one of the main factors, what you said, that you worked very closely to the municipality, and that you had full support from the municipality and client. And I think that's probably, I mean, what was that like? I mean, that kind of interrelationship between.
It was crucial for the project, of course. When they our proposal helped them to make that decision, of course, but being backed up with them, and they as a client were very involved also. The entire project has been really well anchored in the community, the program, everything. So everyone backed it up in that sense. But then when we managed to convince them that this was actually going to be a building in timber, and they were, they have already made that swift, thinking that we're going to do a brave building here. We have to invest in the future, and we have to invest in something that attracts people to this place. And why not just use the things that surrounds us, timber?
Right.
So and they could see that it would benefit their region and their industries and given their job opportunities. And so there was a stake for them as well, but also understanding that, I don't think neither of us understood that the impact of this building from the beginning, because you were also set on but of course we can, but everyone was so on board on making this in timber. So we had this common target or common objective that we were striving against or to, and so we didn't really see any. There were obstacles every day almost, of course, and challenges, right. But there was no hesitation of we should do as much timber as possible. So yeah, they were as any good client, you need a very involved client in the project, of course.
We have one more last question before we open the stage, but there's you had shown like many numbers in the beginning of your lecture for the how much your office works, and have you calculated like how much of those projects that you're actually doing are now made in timber? Was it you have some?
Yeah, we do. I don't have any. Maybe it's. I think that slide is 2 years old or something. But we have quite a number of new bigger projects in the portfolio on paper. So I would say 40% of our new developments is or at least proposed in timber, but still on paper though. But it's but basically because most of the private property developers are now researching or investigating the possibility to actually make this in timber as well. So this number will grow for every year, I would say, even though the prices are rising. And
yeah, I can see you.
Yeah, but in the same time, we learn more and we get more efficient, and the industry learns more, and they know how to calculate risks and because it's a different road working with timber than concrete, for example. So if you say that you're going to work in timber in a way that you used to work in concrete, then you would have a more expensive building. But if you do it right from the beginning, then it's you have lots to save through the construction, for example.
So, yeah, weight, for example, is
one
of the
I mean, and
foundations
number of
lighter. Yeah. Okay. Well, I'm just want to ask everyone who's joining to ask questions. Robert, maybe
could you tell us when and why you introduced Tekla into your construction phase? Because
no, it was. I think it was because of one of the construction engineers. They wanted to have Tekla.
And so did you?
So it was quite late in the project.
Were you able to construct in Tekla parts which went directly into the CNC construction or mill in the milling and in the production?
I would hope so. I don't know. No.
And what was the hardest nut to crack in the project? Where you thought or you didn't think of that could be a problem constructing in wood?
No, the hardest part was to get a contractor that were willing to make this in timber.
Oh, really?
That had the knowledge to build in timber.
Interesting.
So I think that was the biggest risk for us, was to do something that someone was feasible. Basically, there was a lot of contractors coming and saying that, yeah, this is a nice timber project. We can do it in concrete, and then we can clad it in timber if you want to. But so that's our vision was clear throughout the entire project. But it was the convincing others to get on board.
And what was the problem with the pool on the top? So okay, you have the weight.
No, I mean it's
heavy.
It's not a problem, but it's a basin of water on the top of a timber building. If it sways too much, you get.
Were you able to use it as a reserve sprinkler tank, at least?
No, sadly, no. We haven't. It's located in another spot.
Okay.
It's not a big pool. It's more of a yeah.
Okay. Yeah. But
anyone else who was? Yeah. I just wonder if there's someone else who has questions from the audience. I mean, you can also write it into the chat or just speak up. No one dares.
No one dares. were your interior designers a little disappointed that there was nothing to plan, like no surfaces, because the surfaces are already there?
Yeah.
No, it's
No, it's been no. I mean, it's been a good way of actually saving money for the client, saying that we don't need materials.
yeah.
So we could use that as an argument, saying that okay, but we don't need these dry walls, for example, and we don't.
Do you actually? I mean, I know like timber now. It's, I mean, at the moment it's kind of very, say, everybody's focused on timber, and it's of course exposed, and I think maybe in the future there will be also other materials added to it, not have too much timber all the time. But I'm just wondering in terms of all these exposed surfaces that you have. I mean, you touch them, you know, you knock them, and you can, let's say, for example, like a plaster wall, you just repair it by, you know, using more plaster. Is it? Do you have you planned anything like let's say?
Of course, you can. I mean, they will age, yes, and this is a natural material that will crack since it's boards that's been glued together, and they dry, and then they will. I mean, there will be. They don't come perfect, but you get the tactility in the material for free, basically. What if you can do with plaster, then you do ornamentation and everything. But here you get the surface as it is, and it's we chop it down, so it's not live, but it's a living material which will change and which will age. And when people will, hopefully not, but they will write their name or they will scratch it or you'll bump into it, and but it
like
it's
trees.
yeah, and it will be okay, and that's something that we really work with the organization that is going to use this building, or the hotel operator, that you should allow it for it, because that's part of the building's history. It will become the proof that people actually lives here or works here or once loves this place, and they will share it for it. So
Right.
it's instead of having a white wall and every time it's someone do a little scratch, you have to repaint it. There's also some waste of material, I would say.
Is it all the same type of wood that you have used?
For the construction, it is. Then we have it's spruce.
Bruce?
But then we have for internal cladding, most of them it's pine.
Okay.
And then we have another one for the flooring, because it has to be harder, so it's a softwood, hardwood.
Hardwood. And,
Yeah.
and are you worried about the sprinkler system when it turns on?
No, it's we have, then you have to sandpaper a little bit, because it will rise the fibers.
Okay. Yeah. So
But I mean, timber is perfect. As long as you ventilate it, it will dry out. And I mean, it's
Right.
that's the problem. That's basically the biggest challenge, was to not having surfaces that could make to hold water.
Right.
And,
I found
and
you
then
were-
it's good to expose the timber so you can see if it does or not.
Yeah, it's really interesting that you expose all the surfaces so that you can see what happens with them. So it's actually exposing the structure of the building
Yeah.
without having to decorate it. Yeah? And I found also interesting the way that you made these containers, hotel rooms, and you stack them as kind of single, like prefabricated elements that you could just deliver to site, and then you would actually create the acoustics, I guess. That's as far as I understood. Or is
Yeah.
another reason?
Yeah.
Yeah. That's the idea of the those containers, and I think that's a really as you said, it's a really interesting project where you can learn, you know, in all different types construction, timber, and I think what now we all need to do, we need to all take the train and drive up to Gothenburg and
Yeah.
sorry, to I can't still say that name.
When you get to Gothenburg, you're halfway.
Okay. Good. So, yeah, we're all going to come and have a look at your project, and for sure.
Yeah, you could. Just let me know, and I'll guide you. And I also want to say that our Stuttgart office is hiring. So if you know anyone who is interested, have a look at our webpage and contact the person is in charge.
We can recommend our students who are highly educated in terms of building with timber and technical kind of solutions, and they're very. I think there's a lot of if you check out our university website, you can find there's a lot of research in timber. And as I said, like for example, when you mentioned the high rise, there was the ideas to use actuators to minimize the structural depth and to increase kind of sustainability. I think there's a lot of new ways of constructing with timber, which I think could be really fun for you to look at. So I hope that we can meet in Stuttgart. I'm actually myself in Berlin at the moment, so I'm also not there, which gives us the opportunity to talk to each other. But I think that we're looking forward to get you to Stuttgart.
Yeah, sure. Whenever the restrictions are gone.
Right.
As soon as.
Thank you very much, Robert. I think
Thank you for having me.
it was fantastic to see your lecture, and we'll see you again soon.
See you. Hope you enjoyed.